Brought to you by BlackMagic Design, the world's highest quality products for the feature film, post and broadcast industries. BlackMagicDesign.com, the Tonkawa Film Festival, celebrating short films from around the world. Tonkawafilmfestival.com. And by Dehancer. Use the promo code RABBIT to receive 10% off Dehancer products. Dehancer.com.
The first film is The Secret Agent, coming out of Brazil by filmmaker Kleber Mendonça Filho. It stars Wagner Moura, who is, for those who don't know, he's most famous for playing Pablo Escobar on the Netflix show Narcos. He plays a researcher who's coming back to town, and this town is Recife. I mention the town specifically not only because it's his hometown, but because the city plays a kind of a character on its own. There's a lot of scenes that are just sort of encapsulate the time, encapsulate the feeling of the city, which takes place in 1977. And Brazil at the time was under military dictatorship, and from the military on down. So even the police were totally and thoroughly corrupt and brutal. The movie opens, he comes into a gas station to get gas, and there's a dead body in the way that's covered up, but is very casually left behind for someone to come get eventually. The police drive up and begin to harass him. They don't go anywhere near the dead body, and want to go through his car. And by the time the inspection ends, he hands them a pack of cigarettes to get him to get away.
Wow. Okay.
This is, and so this sets up the entire movie. He comes into town. He's living in a refugee community. There's a whole sort of there's like a whole community, I want to say, that lives with under aliases. They're running from wherever they came from. In some cases, there's some folks who are running back. They're circling back, and in this case, our lead, whose name is Marcello, but is actually Armando, as we go on to later on to find out, has returned to acquire some information and acquire some things that belong to him. And one of those things is his son that he's coming to get from his parents who have been looking out for him. He kind of wants to sort of pick his life back up where he had to leave it immediately. Without getting too much into the story, because I don't really want to spoil too much of it. A lot of it is you kind of soaking up the story, and it moves in such a wonderful sort of labyrinthine sort of complexity. The story moves. It follows these characters into their life. Sometimes it's the so-called villain or the antagonist. Sometimes we'll move into him. Sometimes we'll follow some of the people in the community. And the whole time, mind you, Wagner plays the Marcello Armando character with this sort of low key intensity. You know, he's real cool, but you'll see he always has this sort of eye in every direction, waiting for some shoe to drop. The story builds in such a way that after a while you will too. It builds into some rather graphic scenes in one or two cases.
Graphically violent?
Graphically violent.
Okay.
And out of nowhere. And I mention this only because the scenes stand out, because the movie is not about violence. It's a period drama. It's a political thriller a little bit. It's a very much a sort of reflection of the filmmaker going back home and filming his hometown that I believe he kind of grew up in as a child and remembered in that sort of way. And so it's a love letter to the city, and a reflection of how the politics sometimes, where you live, was not the politics that it was 20, 30 years ago. Without getting into too much, he taps not only into the politics of the time, but into urban legends of the area, one being the hairy leg. If anyone knows what the Hairy Lake, I had to look it up. I didn't know about this, but there is an urban legend down there about the Hairy Lake. I don't want to go into it because it's in itself the scene where, and he brings it into the story. He mixes a little of what's happening with the story of what could possibly happen. So you have they find a shark with a dead body in it, and that sort of begins a certain investigation on the police side. And then along the way, we get into the sort of the red light district of the city, and that's where the hairy leg urban legend comes up. And I'll leave it for you to see because it's graphic, not in violence, but sexuality.
Oh, I see.
In that particular scene, and then it goes into just like this weird sort of comedy. You know, there are some nice laughs in there, some decent. Also, because you're reaching for it in some cases, because it does get get pretty serious.
The comic relief you want.
You want a little comic relief, a little bit of humor in that. Yeah.
All right, we got to move on because we got more movies to talk about. But that sounds really interesting.
It does. It's good. It's a movie. It's a good movie.
This is the BTRP Media Network.